They say the desert is empty, silent, lifeless. But from above, it tells a different story. Lines cut across the rust-colored earth, straight, unbroken, stretching for miles. Spirals, geometric shapes, animals frozen mid-flight, larger than a football field. A hummingbird, a monkey, a spider. Perfect, precise, almost impossible. And from the ground, they vanish. More than 1,500 years ago, someone created hundreds of these colossal designs. But why build figures no one on Earth could see? Messages to the gods? An ancient astronomical map? Or something far stranger, something we still can't explain? And the strangest part of all? They weren't discovered the way you think. This is the story of the Nazca Lines. Long before satellites, before drone mapping, before Nazca became a household name, these lines were a whisper on the desert floor, nearly invisible, nearly forgotten, barely noticed even by locals. It wasn't until the age of flight that their true scale was revealed, and with that revelation came one of archaeology's most remarkable moments of discovery. Stretching along the southern coast of Peru, between the Andes Mountains and the Pacific Ocean, lies a vast plateau known as the Pampas of Humana, part of the greater Nazca Desert. It is a place of extremes, blistering sun, almost no rainfall, and wind that rarely disturbs the surface. From the ground, the landscape feels endless, a flat expanse of rust-colored earth and scattered stones disappearing into distant hills. At first glance, it appears empty, lifeless, silent. In the 1920s and 1930s, Peruvian pilots flying over this desolate plain began to notice strange patterns on the earth below, lines so long and precise they couldn't be natural. These were not paths worn by animals or simple trails. They were deliberate, straight as rulers, and sprawling across the landscape in staggering numbers. The desert itself made their survival possible. The Nazca Desert is one of the driest places on Earth, with minimal rainfall and stable winds. By removing the dark, iron-oxidized stones from the surface to expose lighter soil beneath, the Nazca created contrasts that could endure for centuries. In this fragile but stable environment, even shallow lines could last for more than a millennium. But the first person to truly grasp what was hidden there was Paul Kosok, an American historian from Long Island University. In 1941, while researching ancient irrigation systems, Kosok boarded a small plane and looked down at the desert in a way no one had before. From that vantage point, he saw something astonishing, not just lines, but shapes emerging from the earth, birds, animals, and geometric forms, all etched with a precision that defied easy explanation. On one memorable day, after hours studying the lines, Kosok observed that some appeared to align with the horizon at the winter solstice. He described the site as the largest astronomy book in the world, suggesting these ancient designs may have tracked celestial events, though later studies show this may explain only a fraction of the lines. Kosok wasn't alone for long. With him was Maria Reich, a German mathematician and archaeologist who would dedicate the rest of her life to these enigmatic designs. Reich saw in the lines not just lines, but patterns, mathematically precise, culturally meaningful, and worthy of protection and study. She mapped them tirelessly, year after year, often living in relative isolation near the desert so she could guard these fragile works from damage. Over decades, she documented their forms and argued passionately that they were a kind of celestial calendar tied to astronomical events. Today, we know that what Kosok and Reich began to uncover was just the beginning. Further research revealed something even more surprising. The Nazca Lines were not created in a single moment of inspiration. Some geoglyphs predate the Nazca culture entirely, tracing back to the earlier Paracas civilization, which flourished between roughly 800 BCE and 100 BCE. Over centuries, successive generations added new figures, new lines, and new meanings, transforming the desert into a layered ceremonial landscape. The Nazca landscape contains more than 800 straight lines, 300 geometric figures, and 70 animal and plant designs, ranging from hummingbirds and spiders to monkeys and whales, each one so vast it is best seen from the air. Their work shocked the world and transformed our understanding of ancient cultures. But when archaeologists started dating the lines, the timeline complicated everything. By the time researchers began studying the Nazca Lines in depth, countless explanations had emerged. Some were rooted in careful observation, others in cultural interpretation. Each theory revealed something, but none captured the full picture. What researchers do understand with confidence is how the lines were made and why they survived. The surface of the Nazca Desert is covered with dark iron-oxidized stones that contrast sharply with the lighter soil beneath. By clearing away this thin top layer, often only a few inches deep, the Nazca people exposed the pale earth below, creating bold lines against the reddish plain. Wooden stakes set into the ground and connected by stretched ropes allowed workers to produce astonishingly straight lines across miles of open terrain, while larger animal figures were likely scaled up using simple grid techniques from smaller designs. No aerial view was required, only planning, coordination, and careful measurement. Their endurance is owed to the desert itself, one of the driest regions on Earth, where minimal rainfall, stable winds, and a protective layer of surrounding stones have preserved even these shallow markings for more than 1,500 years. What follows is a journey through the biggest ideas, each compelling, each incomplete, and each hinting at a mystery that continues to baffle us. Early researchers, including Paul Kosok and Maria Reich, noticed something remarkable. Certain lines seemed to align with the horizon where the sun rose and set at solstices. Kosok hypothesized that the lines could function as a giant calendar, perhaps marking seasonal changes for agriculture or ritual. While some alignments support this, most archaeologists caution that the evidence is not conclusive. Reich expanded on this idea, meticulously mapping the lines and proposing connections to stars and planetary movements. There is some truth to this. In a region with minimal seasonal variation, a solar calendar could have been valuable. Some lines do appear to correspond with solstitial points. But the theory has limits. With hundreds of lines crossing the desert, apparent alignments can occur by chance. Many lines intersect at angles that hold no clear astronomical significance, and numerous figures point nowhere near the sun, moon, or stars. While astronomy may explain a handful of lines, it cannot account for the entirety of the geoglyphs. Other researchers focus on the ground rather than the sky. Some lines may have been ritual pathways, walked in ceremonial processions. Archaeologists suggest these processions could have been tied to water, fertility, or communal rites, central concerns in a desert where survival depended on ritualized respect for scarce resources. Ethnographic parallels in Andean cultures support the idea of walking sacred landscapes as a form of spiritual practice. Still, not every line fits this model. Some are impossibly long, perfectly straight, or cross terrain difficult to traverse. If walking the lines was the main purpose, why create such enormous animal figures only recognizable from above? Some researchers have proposed that certain lines could encode knowledge of underground water sources or ancient riverbeds, linking them to the desert's vital resource. Evidence is intriguing but remains speculative. No comprehensive map of water aligns perfectly with the geoglyphs. Water rituals were central to desert cultures, so encoding this knowledge into sacred geometry is plausible. Yet, this idea is speculative. Many lines have no connection to water, and evidence linking the geoglyphs directly to aquifers remains limited. Adding to the complexity, archaeological evidence suggests the lines were created in stages over long periods of time. Some were maintained, others abandoned, and a few even intersected older designs, hinting at evolving traditions rather than a single unified master plan. Each grounded theory, celestial, ritual, or water-related, sheds light on part of the puzzle, but none explain it all. And then, the alien theory arrived. When every grounded theory still left gaps, a new idea burst into the public imagination, one that didn't come from archaeologists at all, but from a best-selling book. In 1968, Swiss author Erich von Däniken asked a provocative question in Chariots of the Gods. What if many of humanity's ancient wonders, including the Nazca Lines, resulted not from human ingenuity alone, but from contact with visitors from the stars? Von Däniken's writing didn't start with the Nazca Lines, but he catapulted them into the realm of ancient astronaut theories by suggesting they might have served as runways or signals for extraterrestrial craft. The argument leaned heavily on one striking fact: the full scale of the lines is only visible from the air. That image, lines so enormous they appeared to be designed for aerial audiences, was fertile ground for lifting a fringe idea into public consciousness. Chariots of the Gods became a cultural phenomenon, selling millions of copies worldwide and helping launch a new genre of pseudo-scientific interpretation. On television and in popular media, from late-night specials to programs like Ancient Aliens, the idea of prehistoric extraterrestrial visitors was recycled again and again, often with dramatic flair and little emphasis on cultural context. The Nazca Lines, with their mysterious scale and aerial aesthetics, became a poster child for the ancient alien narrative. Yet the real achievement lies not in the sky, but on the ground, in the ingenuity of a desert culture capable of organizing labor, planning geometric precision, and embedding belief into landscape. Part of the reason this theory gained traction isn't just imagery, it's psychology. When faced with something vast, complex, and seemingly inexplicable, the human mind often gravitates toward extraordinary explanations. The idea of aliens resonates because it touches on deep cultural themes: curiosity about life beyond Earth, the allure of forbidden knowledge, and the belief that human history might be richer or stranger than textbooks suggest. These psychological currents helped the alien theory flourish not because it was supported by evidence, but because it felt thrillingly possible to millions of readers and viewers. However, mainstream archaeologists and historians reject the ancient astronaut interpretation, not out of dismissal, but because there's no credible evidence linking extraterrestrial visitors to the Nazca Lines. Research and experiments have shown that these geoglyphs could have been created with simple tools and teamwork by the Nazca people themselves, using stakes, ropes, and careful planning, no aerial aid required. The idea that ancient aliens built or directed the lines runs counter to everything archaeologists have documented about pre-Columbian cultures. More importantly, Attributing the Nazca Lines to extraterrestrials can inadvertently diminish the remarkable technical skill and cultural creativity of the people who did build them. The lines are not random marks. They are intentional, complex expressions embedded within a cultural landscape shaped by ritual, environment, and social meaning. Nonetheless, the alien narrative has become part of the line's modern mythology, not because it solves the mystery, but because it taps into our hunger for wonder and the unknown. It is a story about us as much as it is about the desert. But in recent years, new discoveries have reopened the mystery in ways no one expected, and those developments are reshaping how scholars think about these ancient creations. For nearly a century, the Nazca Lines were believed to be largely catalogued. The same grand hummingbirds, spiders, and trapezoids that have captivated scientists and storytellers alike. But in the past few years, that assumption has been overturned. Modern technology, drones, high-resolution imaging, and artificial intelligence has transformed our ability to see the desert. In 2024 and 2025, archaeologists working with teams from Japan's Yamagata University, Peru's Ministry of Culture, and research partners like IBM used AI trained on known geoglyph shapes to scan satellite and aerial imagery. In a matter of months, not decades, this system helped identify hundreds of previously unknown geoglyphs. In recent years, researchers have identified hundreds of additional geoglyphs using AI-assisted analysis. In 2019, Japanese researchers announced the discovery of 143 new figures, and continued surveys have pushed the documented total to well over 800 geoglyphs across the Nazca and Palpa regions. Many of the new figures resemble animals, birds, or humanoid motifs. Others are more abstract, and while some media reports suggest symbolic or ceremonial interpretations, the exact meaning of these newly discovered geoglyphs remains under study. Drones have played a crucial role in this renaissance of discovery, but technology is also racing against time. Though the desert preserved the lines for centuries, modern threats, vehicle tracks, urban expansion, and occasional environmental damage have scarred parts of the landscape. Documentation is no longer just discovery, it is preservation. Flying just above the desert floor, they capture incredible detail, even of faint lines that once escaped detection from high-altitude aircraft or satellites. In previous surveys, these faint markings might have blended into the plain, eroded by time and climate. Now, archaeologists can survey vast areas with precision and speed. These technologies aren't just revealing more figures, they are reshaping the story of the Nazca Lines. Rather than a single burst of monumental design, evidence suggests the geoglyphs were created over centuries by successive waves of cultural practices, perhaps beginning with earlier traditions and evolving into the iconic corpus most people know today. Some geoglyphs may date back to before the heyday of the Nazca culture, indicating a deep, layered history of symbolic expression on this plane. This layered timeline forces a reassessment of how and why the lines were made. They are not static relics frozen in time. They are dynamic, built, reused, and recontextualized across generations. Some might have been ceremonial markers, others territorial signs, and still others expressions of cosmological worldview. The Nazca civilization itself thrived between roughly 100 BCE and 800 CE, known for elaborate ceramics, textile artistry, and complex ritual practices centered around water and fertility, precious resources in one of the driest regions on Earth. The sheer volume and diversity of motifs hint at a complex cultural landscape far richer than previously recognized. We now know more than ever about the mechanics of their creation, how simple tools, planning, and coordinated effort made gigantic designs possible. We partially understand why ancient people invested so much in these markings. Ritual, water symbolism, seasonal observances, and spiritual expression all play roles. But we still do not completely understand the full meaning behind them, why certain figures were placed where they are, or what stories they were meant to tell. Maybe the Nazca Lines were never meant to be seen from the sky. Maybe they were meant to be walked by gods we no longer remember. The Nazca Lines have been hiding their secrets for centuries, and we're only scratching the surface. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because every week we'll uncover new discoveries that could rewrite history, and you won't want to miss the next flight over the desert. Thank you for watching.